The book of Genesis is about how everything began: the world, life, people, sin, and God's great plan to save us. It tells us where we came from and shows us that God has always been in control, full of love and purpose, even when people make mistakes. It's the first chapter of God's big story, the beginning of his relationship with the world he created. It started when there was nothing. No earth, no sky, no stars, just God. Then God spoke, and everything began to exist. "Let there be light," he said, and light appeared, shining through the darkness. He made the sky, the land, and the seas. He filled the earth with trees, flowers, and fruit, and the oceans with fish that swam in every direction. He placed the sun to shine by day and the moon and stars to glow by night. And then, from the dust of the ground, he made man, Adam, and from Adam's rib, he made woman, Eve. Together, they lived in a beautiful garden called Eden, a place full of life and peace. In that garden, God walked with them. He gave them everything they needed and only one command: not to eat from a special tree in the middle of the garden, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But one day, a crafty serpent whispered lies to Eve, making her think that eating the fruit would make her like God. She took a bite, and so did Adam. The moment they disobeyed, everything changed. Sin entered the world. They realized they were naked and tried to hide from God, but no one can hide from him. God still loved them, but because of their sin, they had to leave the garden. It was a sad moment. Yet even then, God gave them hope. He promised that one day, a Savior would come to defeat the serpent and make things right again. After Adam and Eve, the world filled with more people, but sin grew stronger. Their son Cain became jealous of his brother Abel and killed him, showing how deeply sin had affected the human heart. As generations passed, people forgot about God and filled the world with violence. But one man, Noah, still walked with God. So, God told Noah to build a huge ark because he was going to send a flood to wash away the evil in the world. Noah obeyed even when people laughed at him. When the rain came, it poured for 40 days and nights. Everything on earth was covered in water, but Noah, his family, and the animals in the ark were safe. When the flood ended, God made a promise, a covenant, that he would never again destroy the earth with water. As a sign of his promise, he placed a rainbow in the sky, a reminder of his mercy and faithfulness. But soon, people again forgot about God. They tried to build a tall tower called Babel to reach the heavens and make a name for themselves. God saw their pride and confused their language, so they could no longer understand each other, causing them to spread across the earth. Then the story shifts to one man, Abram, later called Abraham. God called him to leave his home and go to a new land. Even though Abraham didn't know where he was going, he trusted God. God made him a great promise, that he would make Abraham the father of many nations and that through his family, the whole world would be blessed. Abraham believed God, even when he was very old and had no children. Finally, God gave him a son named Isaac, the child of promise. God tested Abraham's faith by asking him to offer Isaac as a sacrifice. It was the hardest thing Abraham ever faced, but he obeyed, trusting that God would provide. And at the last moment, God stopped him and provided a ram instead. God was showing Abraham that one day, he himself would provide the perfect sacrifice, his own son, Jesus, for the sins of the world. Isaac grew up and had two sons, Jacob and Esau. Jacob was not perfect. He lied and tricked his brother, but God still chose him to carry on the promise. One night, Jacob wrestled with a mysterious man, and when the struggle ended, the man blessed him and gave him a new name, Israel, which means one who struggles with God. From Jacob came 12 sons, and those 12 sons would become the 12 tribes of Israel, God's chosen people. One of those sons was Joseph, Jacob's favorite. Because of jealousy, Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery, and he was taken to Egypt. Life in Egypt was hard. He was lied about, thrown into prison, and forgotten, but God never left him. Through many ups and downs, Joseph was eventually made second in command to Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt. When a great famine came, Joseph's wisdom, given by God, saved many lives. His brothers came to Egypt looking for food, not knowing that the powerful man before them was the brother they had betrayed. Instead of punishing them, Joseph forgave them. He said words that showed how much he trusted God. "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." Joseph brought his whole family to live safely in Egypt, and there the children of Israel grew into a great nation. The book of Genesis ends with Joseph's death. Before he died, he made his family promise that when God led them back to the land he had promised, they would take his bones with them. Joseph believed even in death that God would keep his promise. And so, the book of Genesis closes not with an ending, but with a beginning. The beginning of a nation chosen by God and the unfolding of his plan to rescue the world from sin. Through every story from Adam and Eve to Abraham and Joseph, we see the same truth. People fail, but God never does. His promises never fade, his mercy never ends, and his plan of redemption never stops moving forward. Genesis is the story of how everything began, but more than that, it is the story of how God began his great rescue, a promise that would one day be fulfilled in Jesus Christ, the Savior who would bring us back to the paradise we lost.